Here in Germany, political parties are launching their campaigns for the election on February 23rd. The snap vote, called after the collapse of the governing coalition, have shown this is not business as usual for German politics. The opposition CDU's Friedrich Merz is maintaining a solid lead in the polls, while incumbent Chancellor Olaf Scholz, centre-left Social Democrats, are trailing behind. Both men want to be in charge of the next government, and they are making their differences quite clear.
One of these two men is set to become Germany's next chancellor. Olaf Scholz is trying to defend his job against Friedrich Merz, the man whose party currently leads in the polls. The only thing they have in common, they cannot stand each other.
You are embarrassing Germany. The way you act in Europe is cringeworthy.
Freddie Merz likes to talk rubbish, and it's not the first time.
Losing to Merz would likely end Olaf Scholz's political career, and along with it, Germany's resistance to supplying Ukraine with what it wants most from Berlin, Taurus cruise missiles. Just 1 week after Scholz headed to Kyiv, Friedrich Merz made the same trip and assured Ukraine's President Zelensky,
"We must do everything to enable Ukraine to make use of its right to defend itself without any limitations."
A stance Olaf Scholz condemns as an unnecessary provocation of Russia.
You don't play Russian roulette with Germany's security.
The battle is also about Germany's ailing economy. While Scholz plans to take on new debt for investment, Friedrich Merz wants to stimulate growth through tax breaks and less bureaucracy. Where Merz sees the need for a migration U-turn, including turning people away at the border, Scholz insists his government has already implemented stricter migration laws and points to falling numbers. The two top contenders for Chancellor clash in personality and on all key issues of this election. Next month's elections will fundamentally decide which direction Europe's largest economy will take.
And for more on that, let's talk to DW's chief political editor, Michaela Küfner. She's in the rather picturesque town of Seeon in Bavaria, where opposition leader Friedrich Merz is joining a conference of his CDU's Bavarian sister party, the CSU. Michaela, what are the most important issues there for Friedrich Merz going into the election campaign?
Well, the most important issue for him at this moment in time is not making any mistakes. He has made gaffes in the past, and he wants to see the economy, his business plan for Germany, his stimulation plan and tax breaks as something that is widely debated. At the same time, migration is an issue, particularly the Bavarian sister CSU party, who is the host here in Bavaria, wants to talk about and wants to make clear that a conservative-led policy turnaround, and that's what they're actually having a countdown clock here for as well, counting down those days to the elections, saying there will be a turnaround in policy across the board, that must include a tougher line on migration, a phrase we've heard many times before, and in the specific areas that would also mean potentially stripping dual citizens who also have German but also another citizenship of their German citizenship if they are criminal offenders here in Germany. That's a very, very small group, but we have seen migration being debated again in the context of national security after a foreign national crashed into that Christmas market just before Christmas. And although he is seen as someone who was psychologically unstable, but it's a very heated moment here, and migration once again is seen very much in connection with security.
Now let's talk about Chancellor Olaf Scholz for a moment. According to the polls, the Social Democrats are not performing well. They're way behind. How does Scholz intend to change that?
By insisting that he will turn around the polls as he, and that is true, did last time in those last elections. But there's a huge difference that he doesn't want to talk about, is that back then he was the face of change, despite the fact that he was Angela Merkel's deputy chancellor in the previous coalition. This time, his face, his name stands for the spectacular failure of a three-way coalition. And that is an uphill battle that he is very much feeling right now. And just 6 weeks ahead of the elections, he's insisting he can turn this around. His Social Democrat Party had the choice between him, who's pretty much in one of the last spots, according to popularity of politicians, and the man who's in first spot, who's the current defense minister, Boris Pistorius. Boris Pistorius insisted he was not interested in the job, leading Olaf Scholz in pole position. And if he doesn't perform what is close to a political miracle here, getting his party from the low double digits, around 16% now, facing the Conservatives around 30%, then his political career is pretty much finished here in Germany. That's what he's up against.
Now, both parties, the centre-right Christian Democrats and the Social Democrats, are closely watching the events unfolding in Austria right now, where a far-right party is now leading the coalition talks. Could this happen in Germany?
The short answer is no, because no matter how strong the far-right AfD party becomes in the upcoming elections, the other parties refuse to work with them. And this is something described as a firewall that also previously existed in Austria. It couldn't happen right now, but many politicians are pointing to the next elections after these, 2029, where if the AfD continues to become stronger, it would become increasingly difficult not to cooperate or talk with them. So this is the very same challenge that Germany faces on a much larger scale that is unfolding in neighbouring Austria behind me right now.
DW's Chief Political Editor Michaela Küpfner there. Thank you for this analysis.